रामानुजदयापात्रं ज्ञानवैराग्यभूषणं श्रीमद्वेङ्कटनाथार्यं वन्दे वेदान्तदेशिकं लक्ष्मीनाथसमारम्भां नाथयामुनमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां यो नित्यमच्युतपदाम्बुजयुग्मरुक्मव्यामोहतस्तदितराणि तृणाय मेने अस्मद्गुरोर्भगवतोऽस्य दयैकसिन्धोः रामानुजस्य चरणौ शरणं प्रपद्ये। माता पिता युवतयस्तनया विभूतिः सर्वं यदेव नियमेन मदन्वयानाम् आद्यस्य नः कुलपतेर्वकुलाभिरामं श्रीमत्तदङ्घ्रियुगलं प्रणमामि मूर्ध्ना भूतं सरश्च महदाह्वयभट्टनाथ श्रीभक्तिसार कुलशेखर योगिवाहान् भक्ताङ्घ्रिरेणु परकाल यतीन्द्रमिश्रान् श्रीमत्पराङ्कुशमुनिं प्रणतोऽस्मि नित्यम्। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयम् उदीरयेत्। व्यासं वसिष्ठनप्तारं शक्तेः पौत्रम् अकल्मषं पराशरात्मजं वन्दे शुकतातं तपोनिधिं। व्यासाय विष्णुरूपाय व्यासरूपाय विष्णवे नमो वै ब्रह्मनिधये वासिष्ठाय नमो नमः। अचतुर्वदनोर्ब्रह्मा द्विबाहुरपरो हरिः अफाललोचनः शम्भुः भगवान् बादरायणः। पाराशर्यवचःसुधां सुमनसः दुग्धाब्धिमध्योद्धृतां संसाराग्निविदीपनव्यपगत प्राणात्मसञ्जीवनीं पूर्वाचार्यसुरक्षितां बहुमतिं व्याघातदूरस्थिताम् आनीतां तु निजाक्षरैः सुमनसः भौमाः पिबन्त्वन्वहम्। निगमकल्पतरोर्गलितं फलं शुकमुखात् अमृतद्रवसंयुतं पिबत भागवत रसमालयं मुहुरहो रसिकाः भुवि भावुकाः। जन्माद्यस्य यतोऽन्वयात् इतरतश्चार्थे स्वभिज्ञस्वराट् तेने ब्रह्म हृदा य आदिकवये मुह्यन्ति यत् सूरयः तेजो वारिमृदां यथा विनिमयो यत्र त्रिसर्गो मृषा धाम्ना स्वेन सदा निरस्तकुहकं सत्यं परं धीमहि। सान्द्रानन्दावबोधात्मकमनुपमितं कालदेशावदिभ्यां निर्मुक्तं नित्यमुक्तं निगमशतसहस्रेण निर्भास्यमानम् अस्पष्टं दृष्टमात्रे पुनः उरुपुरुषार्थात्मकं ब्रह्मतत्त्वं तत्तावत् भाति साक्षात् गुरुपवनपुरे। हन्तभाग्यं जनानाम् अग्रे पश्यामि तेजो निबिडतरकला यावळी लोभनीयं पीयूषप्लवितोऽहं तदनु तदुतरे दिव्यकैशोरवेशम् तारुण्यारम्भरम्यं परमसुखरसास्वाद रोमाञ्चिताङ्गैः आवीतं नारदाद्यैः विलसदुपनिषत्सुन्दरी मण्डलैश्च बाहुद्वन्द्वेन रत्नोज्ज्वलवलयभृता शोणपाणिप्रवाळैनौपाता वेणुना प्रसृतनखमयूकाङ्गुलीं सङ्गशरां कृत्वा वक्त्रारविन्दे सुमधुरविकसत् रागमुद्भाव्यमानैः शब्दब्रह्मामृतैः त्वं शिशिरितभुवनैः सिञ्च सिञ्च मे कर्णवीथीं योगीन्द्राणां त्वदङ्गेष्वधिकसुमधुरं मुक्तिभाजां निवासो Bhaktanam Kamavarshadhyudarukisalayam Nathate Padamulam Nityam Chittassthitam Me Pavanapurapate Krishna Karunya Sindho Krishna Karunya Sindho Kritva Niseshatapan Pratishatu Paramananda Sandoha Lakshmi Ajñātvā te mahatvam yadiha nigaditam Vishwanatha kshameta Stotram chaitat sahasrottaram adhikataram Tvat prasadaya bhuyat Dvedha narayaniyam Shrutishu cha janusha stutyata varnanena Sphitam leelavatarairitamida kurutam Ayurarogya saukyam Ayurarogya saukyam Janaki kantasmaranam Gopika Jeevana Smaranam. Extremely honored and indebted to be performing for a samajam that lays its trust, confidence, and devotion to one of the towering personalities, a visionary that Sanatana Dharma has seen, Jnanananda Swami. He was very instrumental in demarcating and determining the path of bhakti through Nama Sankirtanam. So, if there is a word that is premature to the word amateur, that would be me in Nama Sankirtanam. Yet to honor the service that the Samajam has been doing, I thought I'll sing one part of the Todaya Mangalam. So those of you who know well can sing, because I will sing with you. Because the well will be with you, I will sing with you. Jaya Janaki Ramana Jaya Vibhishana Sharana Jaya Saroruha Charana Jaya Dina Karuna Jaya 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 Janaki Ramana. Seriya paadliyo na? Jaya Saroruha Charana Jaya Dina Karuna Jaya 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 Loka Sharanya Jaya Bhakta Karunya Jaya Divya Lavanya Jaya Jagat Punya Jaya 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 Loka Sharanya Jaya Bhakta Karunya Jaya Divya Lavanya Jaya Jagat Punya Jaya Jaya Sharanu Sharanu Surendra Sannuta Sharanu Shri Sati Vallabha Sharanu Rakshasa Garva Samhara Sharanu Venkatanayaka Swami Shri Raghunayaka Sharanu Sharanu Hare. This is all I know. Everything else is out of syllabus. Srimad Bhagavatam, which is regarded by Skandam as a Satvika Puranam, talks about both Bhagavan and the devotee to Bhagavan called Bhagavatottama. Bhagavat iti shabdaha Shadgunya Paripurakaha, the one who is the repository of 6 auspicious attributes is called Bhagavan. So, Parashara Maharishi in Sri Vishnu Puranam, which is called Purana Ratnam, gives a definition to the word Bhagavan. Bhagava itirinam. Bha is Jnana Bala, Ga is Aishwarya Virya, Va is Shakti Tejas. Jnana Bala, Aishwarya Virya, Shakti Tejasam Shukaihi. So these are the 6 gunas. The 6 have been bucketed as Bha, 2 gunas as Bha, 2 as Ga, 2 as Va. Bha, Ga, Va. 6 attributes in Bhagava. The one who possesses buddhi is buddhiman. The one who has dhanam is dhanavan. The one who has got Bhagava is Bhagavan. This is one definition Parashara gives. Second, he uses and splits the word as Bhagava plus an. An is the reverse of the word na. Na in Sanskrit means no. So Bhagava indicates that the Lord is the repository of auspicious good attributes. Sakala Kalyana Gunatmakaha. The one who has all the auspicious attributes. With that, alongside that, does he have any 1 or 2 bad habits? Vedam says no. No, he doesn't have bad habits. No is na. He has got good habits. Yes, Bhagava. Bhagava indicates presence of good habits. Na, which is un, denotes absence of bad habits. Bhagava plus an becomes Bhagavan. So this is called Ubhaya Lingadikaram by Vedavyasa in Brahma Sutram. Ubhaya Lingam. Lingam in Sanskritam doesn't mean lingam. Lingam means identity. Anything that identifies the man is Pum Lingam Pullingam. With the Stri is Strilingam. Since as per some of the Aitihyam and the incidents in our Puranas, Lord Shiva is not generally worshipped in the Agama form through his Swarupam and Rupam. So we have a certain identity for him. And that identity is a Lingam. So Lingam essentially doesn't mean that which is a shape. Lingam is an identity. That's all. Now, Bhagavan. And the one who is devoted to Bhagavan is Bhagavata. So Bhagavatam talks about Bhagavan and Bhagavata. So if Bhagavan is Krishna, Bhagavata is Parikshit. So that is why Uttara housed both of them. That is why Parikshit wanted to know, how was I saved and protected? Draunyasya viplushtamidam madangam santana bijam kuru pandavanam jugopa kukshim gatiyatta chakraha matushchameya sharanam gatayaha. How was I protected? By the Lord, having chakram. So that is when he starts narrating all the Vaibhavam of the Lord associated in Bhagavatam. Yesterday, there were certain portions that I said that I will do justice today. One portion is called as Bhagavata Mahatmyam. Bhagavata Mahatmyam essentially delineates the greatness of listening to Bhagavatam. You're all coming from such distant places, so I have to tell you there is some benefit. So they have created one chapter called Bhagavata Mahatmyam, which falls outside the purview of the 12 cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam. There is one place where Narada Maharishi was in those days the media person. He will go everywhere. So he says, I went to different places. Aham tu prithivim yato nyatva sarvottamamiti pushkaram cha prayagam cha Kashim Godavarim Tatha Pushkaram. I went to Pushkar. Pushkarini means generally a lake or a pond. But there is one place where it is believed in our Puranas that the Lord is in the form of a lake. That is called Pushkar. If you have heard of it, it is close to Ajmer in Rajasthan. So, this place, Pushkaram cha Prayagam cha. Prayagam is the confluence where the rivers come. Now it is very central topic in India now, Prayagraj. Pushkaram cha prayagam cha Kashim. Kashi is Varanasi. Kashi is very famous for a variety of reasons. One, it is believed that the river that flows north to south, which is Ganga, meanders south to north in a certain portion of Kashi. In Kashi alone, when Ganga flows from north to south, it meanders back from south to north and then comes. This is the only place where it goes from south to north for a certain distance. Since nature, that is a natural river such as Ganga herself, she seeks a different path to this place, indicating that this place is of special significance. Kashi holds a special place. So, incidentally, there is always a competition between Ganga and Kaveri. That is why Alvars have sung many lords who are by the banks of river Kaveri. Dugdhabir Janako Jananyahamiyam Srireva Putrivaraha Srirangeshwarame Tadarhamiha Kim Kurvamiti Vakula Chanchachamara Chandra Chandana Mahamanikya Muktotkaran Kaveri Lahari Karair Vidhadati Devasahaiva Shriya, says Acharya called Parashara Bhatta. He says how Kaveri, in order to see her son-in-law Ranganatha and daughter Ranganayaki in Srirangam, comes from Karnataka. So on her way, she wants to take some gifts for her daughter and son-in-law. So the branches of the sandal trees, because the Western Ghats is full of sandal trees. That is why even in Ashtapadi was sung in Odisha by Jayadeva. But he says the intoxicating smell of the clove and the sandal would put Radha into a very different mood. Lalita lavangalata parishilana komala malaya samire radhe lalita lavanga chandana charchita lavanga chandana. These two associated with the Western Ghats. So these branches of the sandal trees would fall into the waters, flowing waters of Kaveri, and through abrasion, the paste would add a different color and odor to the waters. So Kaveri is trying to bring some scent to her daughter and her son-in-law. So the passers-by and the devotees on both sides of the river, in order to get their wishes fulfilled, would pray to Kaveri by throwing bunches of rubies of Myanmar, the sapphires of Sri Lanka, the pearls of Tuticorin, the corals of the Great Barrier Reef of Australia, the diamonds of South Africa into the waters of Kaveri. So Kaveri would carry all these gems along. And she comes to present this to the divine couple of Srirangam. As she is approaching Srirangam, she's quite excited. With the thrill and excitement in her, she jumps at Hogganekal and Shivanasamudram. Jumps. And as she crosses Mohanur, Erode, Karur, and she crosses Mushri, and she's about to reach the island which is formed in the fresh waters of Kaveri, she wants to embrace the ideal couple, so she branches into two, says the poet. So she branches because you know that Srirangam is an island. So there is always a competition between Kaveri and Ganga. So I spoke about Kashi, where the river meanders south to north. Similarly, there is one place in the south where Kaveri meanders south to north. That is called Dakshina Kashi. That place is called Mohanur. Sammohana Krishna is very famous there. It is also famous for, I don't know how many of you follow Tamil literature. There was a great person called Kiva Jagannathan. He belonged to Mohanur. Pushkaram cha prayagam cha Kashim Godavarim tatha. Godavari, of course, the river that originates in Maharashtra, flows in Telangana. She has to pay tributes to Rama of Bhadrachalam. Adigo Bhadradri Gautami idigo chudandi anupamanamai ati sundaramai dhanaru chakramulu dhaga dhaga meri sedi adigo Bhadradri. Then she flows into Andhra, and as she merges into the waters of Bay of Bengal, she meets Nrisimha Swami in the place where the confluence is. Can you tell me what is that kshetram where Godavari meets river, Bay of Bengal, and there is a kshetram of Nrsimha? Telisa? Antarvedi, very good. So she meets there. Pushkaram cha prayagam cha Kashin. Kashi is also the name of one sweet called Kashi Alva. Do you know? Kashim Godavarim Tatha Harikshetram Kurukshetram Srirangam Setu Bandhanam. Shukabrahmam, the son of Vedavyasa, is mentioning of all of this in Naimisharanyam, Uttar Pradesh. Roughly 4,700, 800 years before. That time from the north of India, he makes mention of these kshetrams. Srirangam Setu Bandhanam Evam Evamadishu Tirtheshu Brahmamana Itastataha. So he went to all these places and found no peace. That is the beauty. After telling all this, Anarada says, I found no peace there. Then as he was in a confused state, he saw one lady with two sons of hers. They were lying unconscious and she was also equally disturbed and tired. He asked, who are you, O lady? Who are these sons? She said, this son of mine is called Jnana, the other son is called Vairagya. Knowledge and enlightened detachment from material things. You know, at times, Sanskritam is easier. How do we describe Vairagyam? Raga in Sanskritam means love. Raga means love. Viraga, where there is no love, which means you're detached. You're not having that greasy touch, attachment to that. So that becomes a viraga. So this sustenance of the thought of viraga is vairagyam. I will not have sweets for 1 week. That is vairagyam. Right? Jnana and vairagyam were the two sons who were swooned. And this mother who was nursing the two sons was Bhakti. So Narada immediately asked, oh, you lady, you tell me about your jatakam, your horoscope. Where were you born? Where did you study? I want to know more. Okay. Utpanna Dravide Saham. Bhakti says, I was born in the state of Tamil Nadu. Utpanna Dravide Saham. Vridhim Karnatake Gata. I came of age in Karnataka Pradesham. Yesterday I told, ಹೇಳಿದ್ನಲ್ವಾ ಹೊರಡುವಾಗ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ಖಂಡಿತ ಈ ಪ್ರದೇಶ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಹೇಳಬೇಕು ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ. So in the north of India they have one habit, in the south of India we have one habit. In the south of India we will add an akaram to everything. Right? Govind Sharan Jaya Janaki Ramana. Then Mahalakshmi will come. Ramana. A sound alone should come. Ramana. Jaya Vibhishana Jarana. Sharana. Jaya Sarvaruha Charana. Charana. Jaya Dhira Karuna Rama Krishna. We add akaram unnecessarily. No harm. In the north of India, they will cut the hraswam. Shantakar, Bujukshain, Padnab, Suresh, Vishwadar, Gagan Sadish, Meghvan, Shubang, Lakshmi, Kant, Kamal Nayan, Dhoni, Virat. It will be like one attendance register. But you should add that im, because then only it will become an object in the Dvitiya Vibhakti. Right? So they should add that last sound. We should delete that extra sound. Utpanna Dravide Saham. Bhakti tells, Vridhim Karnatake Gata. I was nurtured in Karnataka. Karnata is the original Sanskritam word. Karnataka became a later suffix. Karnatam means Karna, ear. Karnatavi, that means that geography which is so prosperous and so auspicious that it seems like the earring of Mahalakshmi. Karnatavi. So, Karnatavi. So, if you personify Mother Earth as a lady, Bhudevi, then Karnata is her ear sthanam. Then the place where she adorns the girdle, Mekhala. Kati dhatita Mekhala. Mekhala means girdle, Oddiyanam. So this place is like a longitude. So that for Mother Earth, the girdle will be like a longitude. That goes through a city called Kanchi. So Kanchi means girdle. So here she says, I came of age in Karnataka. Vridhim Karnatake gata. Kvachit kvachin Maharashtre. Then later, I spent my later years, Kvachit kvachin Maharashtre. I went to Maharashtra. Rupa pahata lochani sukha jale wo sajani toha Vithala barva toha Madhava barva. I went to the Kshetram of Vithala by Chandrabhaga Nadi. Kvachit kvachin Maharashtre. Gurjare Jirnatam Gata. Finally, I spent my last years in Gurjaram, which is Gujarat. Gurjare Jirnatam Gata. So Bhakti tells her Jatakam to Narada, this is where I am from. Then Narada says, why are you upset? Then she says, see, like how you have found no justice or nyayam or righteousness anywhere. Even I have found no righteousness anywhere. Looking at this, my son swooned, their BP came down. Now, what do we do for that? Shlokardham shlokapadam va pathed bhagavatam chayah nityam punyam avapnoti rajasuya shvamedhayoho. Shlokardham shlokapadam va. Even if you read a quarter, you should not have any other idea about meaning to this word. Shlokardham shlokapadam va. A quarter or a half of a shlokam in Bhagavatam will also rejuvenate you. Rajasuya shvamedhayoho. It gives you the punyam of doing a ashvamedham or a rajasuya yagyam. So they say Bhagavatam is very important. Then that is when Shukabrahmam takes us to another place where while leaving this material world, Leela Vibhuti, Krishna calls his friend. We will deal with this friend much later. He's very important. His name is Uddhava. Uddhava, and Uddhava says, we will miss you, Krishna. Where will you go? And Krishna says, don't worry. While I am leaving this material world, I am going to give back this world another work which is equivalent to me. He says, Tvadviyogena te bhaktaha katham syasyanti bhutale nirgunopasane kashtam matakinchid vicharaya. Then the Lord says, Swakiyam yad bhavet tejaha tacha bhagavate dadhat tirodhaya pravishtoyam Srimad Bhagavatarnavam. I am no different from Bhagavatam. See, that is why we have Bhagavatam books placed here. You don't even need Krishna's Vigraham, portrait. If you keep Bhagavatam, it is equivalent to keeping Krishna. But the difference is, if you keep Krishna, it is okay. But Bhagavatam, you have to read. Now, that is when there is one small anecdote in Bhagavata Mahatmyam. I'll go rush through this very fast. By the banks of river Tungabhadra, there was a learned scholar. His wife was Dunduli. They didn't have children for a long time. When people asked her, do you want children? She said, Vandhya va vidhava nari sukhini cheti me matihi. I am waiting when this man will die and you're asking, I need children. Vandhya va vidhava nari. Finally, this man receives, the Vedic scholar receives the blessings of a rishi. He has a son who's extremely well disciplined, but not brought up by this lady. His name was Gokarna, whereas the one born through his sister is is a big disaster. His name is Dundukari. Now this Dundukari is killed. He becomes, his Jivatma goes around that place, causing a lot of pain to people in their dreams. That is when, to give him a better realm and abode, they read Bhagavatam, and Gokarna helps in this process. So, this is the essence of Srimad Bhagavata Mahatmyam. After having gone through certain portions of why Bhagavatam came into picture. Yesterday I spoke about Ashwathama. You remember? Around 640, Ashwathama came. Suryaspardhi kiritam urdhvatilakam prodbhasi palantaram karunyakula netramadrapa hasitollasam sunasa putam, says Bhattadri. How the Lord should be, how beautiful he is. Now, yesterday I stopped at one place where the Dwarapalakas were cursed by the four sons of Brahma. And on the other hand, I also spoke about Diti Devi giving birth to two children. What were the children's names? Akshay and Hiranyakashipu. First, we should know the villain's name well. Right? Because in our country, you have also got good villains, Uttama villain. Now this Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. Hiranya in Sanskritam means gold, which doesn't essentially mean their body will be made of AU, aurum, which means their skin used to be yellow. Now this Hiranyaksha, who was a younger brother, Hiranyakashipu was the elder one. Hiranyaksha, let us see what he did. This Hiranyaksha is said to have troubled Mother Earth. You have all heard of this. Then what did he do to Earth? Then he put her in sea. All very well read children. Now, these children of Bay Area will listen to what Shuka Brahmam says. They are all disciples of Shuka Brahmam. But many of them will ask, sir, how can you put earth in the sea? Correct? Oh, you had the same question? See? Very good. Good boy. Now, that is $1 million question. Sir, we have been told, that is why I told yesterday, though Vedic civilization in general appreciates the science or the art of questioning, however you would like to put it, we have come through and seen many generations where questioning is not that well encouraged as well. Though this question may have occurred to the many of you, I don't think you may have lived in generations where the parents or the grandparents were very open to answering these questions. Right? So now, we all know Atlantic Ocean, Pacific Ocean. Sir, if you say that Earth was kept into the ocean, was Mother Earth taken from the solar system out and then put into a jar full of water? Now, there will be some mathematical problems as well, because if we construe the diameter of that particular Earth, if she has to drown into the waters, the depth of the waters should be at least 2x of the diameter, and then only it will go. Lot of problems here. So how do we get out of it? Let's see what Hiranyaksha did first, then we'll talk about the problem. Tayor Hiranyakshamah Surendraha Ranaya Dhavannavaptavairi Bhavat Priyam Kshmam Salile Nimajya Chachara Garvada Nidan Gadavan. No. Tell what is there in the book. Don't go this way, that way. Some of them have reprimanded me as well. Now, if we go by the concept that, let us say he has kept her into waters, there is another problem. After throwing earth into the waters, how did his brother and family survive? Now, after a few, tomorrow at about 7:30, his brother has to come, Hiranyakashipu. How did he survive? Because water will go, he'll get pneumonia. How will he get? So, how do we solve this problem? It's a catch-22 situation. Now, Bhumi Devi is suffering. That is very clearly mentioned. பாஷி தூர்த்து கிடந்த பார்மகட்கு பண்டொரு நாள் மாசுடம்பின் நீர்வார மானமிலா பன்றியாம் தேசுடைய தேவர் திருவரங்கச் செல்வனார் பேசியினுப்பனர்கள் பேர்க்கவும் பேராவே, says Andal in Nachiyar Tirumozhi. பாஷி தூர்த்து கிடந்த, a thin layer of algae was formed over earth. How do we get out of this situation? One is to avoid the question itself. We can avoid. But there are beautiful ways Shastram tells us. See, Valmiki and Vyasa and all our Maharishis, well, they presented scriptures to us. They assumed that these people will do little homework. They will read the lines between the lines. They will not read the lines as is, because all our granthas are in poetry. Be it Srimad Ramayanam, which is Adi Kavyam, Mahabharatam, Puranas, and later, of course, the works of Kalidasa, Bharavi, Maga, Harsha, Kalhana, they are all in poetry. Poetry has a certain way of we reading it and understanding it. We should not take the meaning as is in a poetry. See, for everything in poetry, they have to describe and exaggerate. When the woman walks, they'll say the Hamsa birds were waiting in a queue to check how these women will walk and then learn how to walk. But in reality, the Hamsa birds wouldn't have waited at all. But poetry has such exaggerations. When it is poetry, you will have to use your complete license of exaggeration. This is Upanyasam. Now, if I have to, let's say I have to transition this mode of communication to Harikatha. Jil 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 ne Perumal vandaram appo varumbodhu paathelna appo Perumal daga 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 vanna odu. I have to give all that, then only it will become Harikatha. Now if I speak like this normally, nobody will call it Harikatha. This is normal lecture. So everything has an art. So Vyasa and Valmiki assumed that we will do that homework. Now let us find what the answer is to this question. I don't know about the practices here, but way back in India, there are two things. Either you live in an apartment or you live in an independent house. If you live in an independent house, the first thing that you would do is to buy a plot. It could be 30 by 40 plot, 60 by 40 plot. You will check whether it's half a ground, 1 ground, and you will buy the plot first. Before construction, what would you do? Bhumi Puja. You are doing puja to the entire Bhumi? What do you do puja to? To the 30 by 40 plot. You don't say 30 by 40 plot puja. You say Bhumi Puja. You are doing puja to the entire earth, which means even if you take a small part of earth where you're going to construct that house, that is akin to Bhumi, you still call it Bhumi Puja. There are many localities in many cities of India where, because of the population explosion, less urban planning, lakes have been converted into residential localities. That is why when it rains, water comes inside the house. Right? Then they start swimming inside the house. Now, while mentioning about the agony that they have undergone during incessant rains, the family would say, I'm just giving you an example in my mother tongue. Bhumiye mudigi peduthu. The entire earth did not get submerged. Only their house got submerged. But they will say, Bhumiye mudigi peduthu. For what are you doing puja? Bhumi Puja. So even a small part of earth, when it undergoes some problem or agony, that is treated as if the entire earth undergoes. Correct? So we speak about today, I don't know, there are people across different ages. There are little children, school going children, college going people, office going people, and there are elderly folks here. Something that I have experienced, I can say. In 1990s, late 90s, my grandmother used to tell my mother, your generation is so different. I've heard this. I've heard this where my grandmother told my mother. 10, 15 years later, my mother has told this to me. Your generation is later. I don't know if you all know there is one advertisement called Woodward's Gripe Water. If a child cries, they would say the same problem you had, and they will. So there are certain things that don't change. We think as if we are living in times which are much different than what our ancestors have lived. Every generation had its own set of problems, and there would be cliched statements that would be bequeathed by every generation, one after the other, in different points in time. Well, I used to study suppose I'm in ninth grade, my mother would say, you're not studying as well as what you did in your eighth grade. When I used to be in 10th grade, she used to say the same thing, that I didn't study as well I used to do in the ninth grade. I don't know how many of you have heard these statements. Probably that was their way of motivating. Very bad, but still. So this is how I've heard. Similarly, we always assume that pollution, global warming, all of them going in different flights to Switzerland and discussing about global warming is all now. This pollution, global warming, all that has existed for many, many generations. But now we are in a plastic world, so that is why we talk more about it. Pollution doesn't mean before 1900s everything was pure. Don't assume that way. Maybe the intensity of pollution may have increased, but pollution did exist. So, Hiranyaksha, with my little understanding and talking with scholars, I have come up with a theory. Hiranyaksha, who lived as one of the sons of Kashyapa. Kashyapa was around which region? Kashmir. So if you know the world map, you have Kashmir, Ladakh, you have Pakistan, you've got Afghanistan, and then the Central Asian countries, Uzbekistan. You know, you must have heard of a great traveler called Al-Biruni. He was an Uzbek. Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, then you must have heard of Babbar. Later we call him Babar, Babbar. So this Babbar came from a place called Samarkand. So all that is Central Asian countries, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan. So here you have the stretch of Himalayas going till the Pamir mountains. So here is where, around this region is where Kashyapa was settled with his sons. The second son, Hiranyaksha, was doing activities against Mother Nature, the flora and the fauna. So these are the places where you have most of the glaciers that give rise to perennial rivers. You have Gangotri, Yamunotri, Brahmaputra, Sindhu, which is Indus, Chandrabhaga. All these names you must have heard of: Ravi, Bias, Satluj, Jhelum. All this comes from the glaciers of the snow-capped mountains. So, being a son who was against Mother Nature, his activities would have been in such that he would have disturbed the existence of glaciers. So, if glaciers melt than what they are required to, they will submerge the bhumi around them. Not essentially the entire bhumi. Certain parts, the water level will rise and they will submerge the bhumi. So this man must have been an antisocial element, a person who was against Mother's Nature, natural's existence, and must have disturbed the glaciers, and the nearby areas must have got disturbed. That is when they prayed to Brahma, and Brahma prayed to the Lord, and the Lord occurred as Varaha. Varaha killed Hiranyaksha. Varaha Moolam, the existence of Varaha killed Hiranyaksha. Varaha Mula. Va is replaced by Ba in many languages. So Varaha Mula became Baramulla. If you've heard of this place, Baramulla. So we have a huge connection with the language we speak, the Shastras we know, to the existence of many, many places. For example, later in Krishna Avataram, we'll be dealing. Krishna went along with Satyabhama to annihilate a demon called as Naraka. And Naraka's son Bhagadatta runs away from that place. He was made the king, but he runs away from that place with his tribe. He goes westward. The place where Bhagadatta settled with his tribe over a period of time linguistically became Bhagadatta Bhagdad, if you've heard. So we have a lot of connection to the words, the races where we speak. What I'm trying to tell now is, taking Mother Earth and putting her into ocean is not what our acharyas meant. Vyasa said that Mother Nature was disturbed, wherein Mother Earth doesn't essentially mean the entire earth. It is one portion of the earth which submerged in the waters, and that is when Swayambhuva Manu went to Brahma. Sambhavayan madhuripuh pranayanurodhat vakshasthalena varunalaya rajakanyam. So, as Swayambhuva Manu went to Brahma, Kashtam praja srijati maya vinidya nimagna sthanam saroja bhava kalpaya tat prajana mityeva mesha katito manuna Swayambhu. Brahma and later Swayambhuva Manu. Swayambhuva Manu is like minister of state. Brahma is the union minister of production. So he was close to Bharatadesham and China, where most of it happens. Sthanam saroja bhava kalpata tatprajana mityeva mesha katito manuna Swayambhu. So Swayambhuva Manu went to Brahma and said, Brahma, see, I designed some smart cities. But now recently when I went for supervision, I saw most of them were submerged. And then from understanding from the CCTV footage, I came to know that the glaciers have melted and they have caused this problem because of Kashyapa's son, Hiranyaksha. Brahma, do something about it. Brahma generally is in a helpless state. If you tell him about your worry, he will worry along with you. So, now, if I tell, see, well, you even listen to a spiritual lecture, you should have a very light mind, unbiased mind. Some people are very serious always. They will write, you spoke ill about Brahma. You have abused Brahma. Where all they will go? Sanatana Dharma is a very, very, if I have to use a very simple civilization. You don't have to worry always, this will happen, that will happen, he will cut me, he will behead me. Nothing. Be very calm, cool. If you have criticisms, take it at your stride. Should not get agitated. Why I am speaking, how dare you, or you speak about Brahma? I am nobody. Brahma is Brahma Deva, no doubt. But as per Shastram, I heard a few months back, I think there was some shortage of atta. Correct? That's what my host told me. So there was shortage of atta. So I said I will eat only one chapati today. So, atta shortage. Now, if there is atta shortage, and imagine there is a big truck and they give only one packet per person. If I go and stand in the queue, in the same queue, Brahma will also come. Now you may wonder, sir, Brahmadev, 4 heads. In every Natakam, he'll have one white beard also. Even then Brahma will come. Remember this very well. Brahma is a Jivatma. He has got extra powers. He has got an extra lifetime. That's all. Now, how do we understand this? See, Sanatana Dharma is very clear. Read the Itihasa Puranabhyam Vedam Samupa Brahmayet. Read about our Itihasas and Puranas. Read our Veda and Vedanta. Research, go to an Acharya and conclude whom you have to propitiate. You cannot keep having backups. I will worship him. All backup electricity. If this man forgets, this God will protect me. It won't work. Your confidence and trust should be so unshakable and unwavering. Rakshishyati iti vishwasaha. So there is one anecdote, or probably an example, an analogy given for Brahma's position. I'll tell you this and then I'll go. I've got a lot of portions to cover now. Imagine it is Gokulashtami. It's called Sri Jayanti. And many of them have this habit of making bhakshanams, some buying bhakshanams. It is okay. Grand Sweets is available here. Now, to make bhakshanams, you need flour. For flour, what do we do? So the mother tells, I'm just giving you a very Indian example. Those children who can't associate with this, forget. Now in Bharata Desham, there is an attic where the jars of flowers are kept. In the Tamil language, it is called Paranai, Paran. So the mother tells the child, the son or the daughter, who has questioned the mother the previous day. The child has asked, where is Brahma? She said, somewhere high. Now the child asks, where is the moon? Moon is also very far. See, it is so far. The mother points to the moon and says, the moon is very far. Day 1. Day 2, she has to make some savories. So she tells, go climb, use the ladder, climb the attic and get the jar filled with flour. The child uses the ladder, goes to the attic religiously and gets the jar filled with flour and gives it to the mother. The child refuses to climb down. The mother asks, why aren't you coming down? No, the moon is closer from here. Mother wonders. See, compared to your yesterday's position, you are 9 feet higher. Yes, that I agree. But with respect to the moon, relative to the moon, if you are 1,30,000 kilometers yesterday, today you are 1,29,999.9, which approximates to 1,30,000. So, just because you are 10 feet higher, it doesn't mean you're closer to the moon. With respect to me, you're higher, but with respect to the moon, you're at the same distance. We are down. Brahma is above the attic. Paramatma is the moon. To us, Brahma is at a higher level, but with respect to Paramatma, both Brahma and we are at the same distance. So, our understanding of Brahma and Devatas should be very, very clear. Now, Brahma equally worries. He says, what will I do? Then as he is worried, and that time the Lord, there is one small swine, pig, that jumps from the nostril of Brahma. Brahma found it very humiliating. What jumped from his nose? Pig. See, generally, this is an animal we don't use for the right reasons. If you eat a lot, you say, I ate like a pig. You dirty swine. No, we all say, right? Even animal activists, when they write blogs, they use these words. PETA people, they also use. So, the example, the comparisons that we have with respect to animals, especially with the pig, is not great. So the moment the pig jumped from his nostril, Brahma was worried about his image. What will people write? Brahma breathed in and breathed out when pig jumped from his nostril. So he asked, who are you? Ityabidhyayato nasa vivatsa sahasanagha varaha toko nirgada angushta parimanakaha. Who are you? The pig held its hand like this and turned towards Brahma. Vishnu Puranam tells this. Then Brahma zoomed and checked who this pig is. Mahavaraha sputa padmalochanaha. This boar was very unique. It had eyes like the petals of a newly blossomed lotus. Brahma immediately said, oh, it is Narayana in the form of a pig. Because Chandogya Upanishad says that one of the inseparable identities to Paramatma is the eyes. That is why even while abusing Krishna, Duryodhana tells, Bhishmadrona vratikramya mamschaiva madhusudana kimartham pundarikaksha dugdham rishabhabojanam. When Krishna comes as a messenger of the Pandavas to Hastinapura, Duryodhana tells, I have made a very nice suite for you. Please come and stay there. All facilities will be available. Krishna says, no, I will go to Vidura's house. That time Duryodhana gets angry. Oh, Krishna, you have abandoned my house, Bhishma's house, Drona's house, and you're after all going to that man, Vidura's house. Oh, lotus-eyed one. Even while abusing, he abuses him. Kimartham pundarikaksha. You know about Shurpanakha. Who's Shurpanakha? Ravana's sister. So she comes, she falls in love with Rama. She says, I'll marry you. Rama says, no, in this avataram, I vowed to marry you only once. Put your application to the next avataram. No application will be rejected. That time, Shurpanakha, as soon as she tells all these statements, you're so handsome, this, that. Rama says, I can't accept. Then she goes to Lakshmana. She tells the same dialogue. Very handsome. Lakshmana says, see, I am washing. What is that? I'm doing dishes. See, if you marry me, then you have to take half the share. I will give you especially those dishes where I have made pulikachal. I don't know. Telugu bhashalo, Telugu varu unnaru kada, pulikachal emi adi peru. Puli annam chesinappudu chestaru kada. So 4-5 hours you have to keep doing it, and that more than what you cook, the dish, that vessel becomes a big nightmare to wash. So Lakshmana said, I will give you those vessels. So now Shurpanakha, she was left in a fix. Why these two men are rejecting me? I am looking beautiful. That is when she spots Sita and she has to run towards Sita to kill Sita. That is when Lakshmana stops. It's a very controversial passage. He chops off the tip of her nose. Many of them, they will ask me, why did he do? He didn't ask my permission. He did. So he chopped off Shurpanakha's nose. Now the problem is, Shurpanakha has to go and lament about her state to her half-brothers Khara, Dushana, Trishiras. Purana Purushana Paratmaja Shruta Paradidina Khara Viradhara Vana Viravananaga Parashara Manohara Vikruta Tyagaraja Sannuta. She has to go and lament. Now nose is cut. How will you lament? Because a lot of her sounds come from the nose. Kandu Kanden Irikin Janangale Kandilino Varutuna Tumbavan Kandu Kanden. I use my nose. Now, how will she complain? That is why in the 16th century, roughly 450 years before, the author of Narayaniyam, his name was Melpattur Narayana Bhattadri. He composed one work called Shurpanakha Pralapam, the lament of Shurpanakha. It is 6 verses. You can find it is in a manuscript. Those 6 verses where she laments to her brothers about who did this, why they did that, not a single letter you have to use your nose. It's called Nirnasikam. Ha ha rakshasa raja paribhavo yetat. So all the words are Nirnasikam. You don't have to use your nose. Like how the veteran Balamurali Krishna came up with a ragam called Niroshta. You don't need to put your lips together. You won't have Panchamam. Pa, Dani Sariga Sariga Ma. You're putting your lips together. Daba ma gari ni Dani Sariga Pa Ma won't be there. Niroshta. Your lips won't come together. So this is Nirnasikam. I'll ask, there'll be a crossword where the children told. There is a crossword game. If you answer, you'll get some great gift. I don't know what that gift is. Great, are they? Now, Varaha emerged. Why I told you this was, even while that Shurpanakha goes to her brothers and complains who chopped her nose, she says, Tarunau Rupa Sampannau Sukumarau Mahabalau Pundarika Visalakshau. You know, my brothers, who did this to me? Those two men with long arms and lotus-like eyes chopped my nose. So, what is inseparable in Sanskritam? It is called apritak siddha viseshanam. Apritak siddha means inseparable. Inseparable from the Lord are his lotus-like eyes. Even while he comes as the swine, the pig, he will come with lotus-like eyes. Mahavaraha sputa padmalochana. Brahma then understood this is the Lord. Why did he come from the nose? ஏதோ வந்துட்டார் சார், எல்லாம் பெரிய கேள்வியா. Why did Varaha come from the Lord's nose? For which Vedanta Deshika gives a very subtle answer. Bhuteshu yatvad abhimana visesha patram posham tadeva bhajatiti vibhavayantaha bhutam prabhuta guna panchakam adyameva prayo nidarshatataya pratipadayanti. We deal with panchabhutas. Akashad vayuhu, vayor agnihi, agner apaha adbhyaf prithvi. Very good. It comes in Taitriyam. So Akasham, who is Akash? Oh, sky. You should not tell like that. That is why I asked Akash. Akasham in Vedanta doesn't mean sky. Akasham means space. All this is Akasham. No sir, this is oxygen, air is there. First of all, oxygen is not the only gas present in this air. We know that 78% nitrogen, 20.02% oxygen. Right? Composition of air is different. Now, this space is pervaded by air. So it is Akasham. All this is space. Air pervades this space. So first is Akasham. So from now on, if somebody asks you, if you are a Vedanta student, if somebody asks you what is Akasham, you should not look to the top. Akash. This is Akash. Your grandson could also be called Akash. This is also Akash. If Akash doesn't answer questions well, there is Akash. Akashad Vayuhu. Akasham. What is the unique attribute of Akasham? Shastram tells Shabdam. Remember this. You have to remember. Akasham is Shabdam. Shabdam is the quality. It is called Tanmatram. So Akasham is a Panchabhutam, one of the Panchabhutas. Its essential attribute, Pradhana Pratitantram, is Shabdam, which is sound. From Akasham comes Vayu. Akashad Vayuhu. For Vayu, there are two attributes. One is the essential attribute. There is Shabdam plus something else, which is Sparsham. You can feel air. Akashad Vayuhu. From Vayu comes Agni. There is Shabdam, Sparsham. The essential attribute of Agni is Rupam. You can see fire. You can't see air. But fire you can see. Hope it never occurs, but your state is also famous for fires, right? So you can see that fire. Agner Apaha. Then comes water. It has 3 plus 1 essential quality, Ruchi, taste. So every water, river water has a certain taste. Each river has a certain taste in that water. So then finally comes Prithvi. Prithvi, which is earth. The essential attribute along with Shabdam, Sparsham, Rupam, Ruchi for earth is Gandham. Gandhavati Prithvi. When you can literally smell earth, when the first water of the precipitation, when the rain falls, there is a unique smell associated with earth. So, Akasham, what is the Tanmatram? Shabdam. Vayu, Sparsham. Then Agni, Rupam. Then Jalam, Ruchi. Prithvi. For Akasham, Shabdam. How do you sense this attribute called as sound? Ear. So from the Pancha Jnanendriyas, we are going to borrow the ear. Through the ear, you can hear. Then comes Akashad Vayuhu. How do you sense the Sparsham? Skin. Tvacha. Next comes Agni. Rupam. How do you see? Eyes. Then comes water. Ruchi. How? Tongue. Then comes Prithvi. How do you smell? Nose. So who is suffering at the hands of Hiranyaksha? Bhumi. What is Bhumi's attribute? Smell. Gandham. How do you smell? Nose. To solve the problem of Bhumi, which is smell, the Lord came from the nose. Prayo nidarshatataya pratipadayanti. The Lord emerged, the rishis sang praises of Varaha. Because, see, there are two ways that Agama perceives Varaha. Varaha is one of the foremost avatarams. Remember, Dashavataram did not happen with Matsyam first, Kurmam next. This order is wrong. Sir, but we all say, Meena Kurma Varaha Mrugapati Avatara Danavari Guna Shaure Dharani Dharama Rujanak Dolayam Chale Dolayam. Vedanta Deshika says, Ichamina Vihara Kachapa Mahapotrin Yadricha Hare Raksha Vamana Rosharama Karuna Kakutstha Hela Halin. Jayadeva says, Pralayapayodhi Jale Keshava. He also says, Meena Kurma Varaha. Why are you telling all wrong things, Dushyanth? None of these acharyas who state Matsya Kurma Varaha make a statement that the occurring of the avatars is in this order. They just keep it in one attendance order, that's all. That is why many will have, sir, in Dashavatara panel that I saw in my aunt's house, Balram is there, Buddha is not there. In another place, Buddha is there, Balram is not there. See, the avatars of the Lord are innumerable. Sambhavami yuge yuge. Now also the Lord could have taken avataram in Scotland, Tasmania, Cuba. We don't know. Sir, are you sure the Lord has incarnated? Yes. For him there is no geography specificity. I will be born only in Maritpalli in Secunderabad. నేను పొరంద ಆರ್ಯಗೌಡರ ಉಳ್ಳ ಪೊರಕನೊನ್ನೆ ಹುಟ್ಟಿದ್ರೆ ಮೊಲ್ಲೇಶ್ವರಮಲ್ಲಿ ಬರಬೇಕು ಸರ್, ವೀಣಾ ಸ್ಟೋರ್ಸ್ ಕಡೆ ಅವತಾರ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿ ಭವನ ಆ ಕಡೆ ಮಾಡಿದರೆ ಒಂದು ದೋಸೆ ಸಿಗುತ್ತೆ, ಬೆಣ್ಣೆ ದೋಸೆ. The Lord is not specific. He will be born in Putin's house also. We don't know. But why don't we know those avatars, sir? Because we don't have those venerated rishis like Valmiki and Vyasa who could see and foresee and tell us that this is an avatar. Avatars are happening, but rishis are not there. Only rishis could see and tell this is an avataram. That person we don't have. So avatars are innumerable number. There is no count at all to the avatars. Avatars did not happen in this order. Now people say he was born as aquatic. From aquatic he went to, amphibian. From amphibian he went to Mauritius. From Mauritius he went to terrestrial. Terrestrial to a dwarf. Dwarf to an uncivilized man. Now they want, first of all, we should not coax science into religion. If there are places where religion and science beautifully come together, appreciate it. Use Tarka Shastram, that is different. First of all, if Darwin's itself is a theory, he has not given CCTV footage. He says, this is one of the postulates that I have. That itself needs to be proven. Now, if we try to coax religion into Darwin's theory, and tomorrow imagine somebody disproves the Darwin's theory, along with that, our Dashavataras will also go. So it is better we keep Sriman Darwinacharya away. We are not against science. See, that is another thing. We are not against. If it's natural, let it happen. Now, Varaha Avataram is one of the most ancient avatars as per Vedam. Uddhrita Sivarahena Krishnena Shatabahuna. So the Lord emerged. Now he comes as a wild boar. So he has got two tusks. The wild boar has. So he has to retrieve. See, if you have to take something out, you need tools that can bring that out. Correct. So he has come as a wild boar to retrieve or get Mother Earth from the submerged waters. So there are two ways in Agama Shastram that depicts Varaha. One, as a pure wild boar. You must have heard of Khajuraho. It forms a part of Madhya Pradesh. Please go visit. There you will find Varaha. You know, the Varaha Murti, 1400 years old. You have to understand Indian architecture. Going to one temple, putting one tick mark. Learn about that architecture. It has so much to talk to us. It conveys so much of information. You don't necessarily have to have an MA history to do that, or archaeology. You will see a huge boar, as huge as this room. Just check that Varaha of Khajuraho. Throughout the body of the boar, you will see Maharishis and all of them, because Vedam says, Jitam jitam te jita yajna bhavana trayim tanum swam paridhunvate namaha yadro madargateshu nililyudhvaras tasmai namakarana sukarayate. Looking or propitiating to Varahamurti is akin to doing a yagam, because his entire body, Divyamangala Swarupam, is equivalent to every dish of a yagam. Sruk, Srava, Ida, Chamas, these are all instruments that we use in a yagam. One big ladle, small ladle, Sruk, Sravas it is called. So all this is Varahamurti. So now that is one way of depicting Varaha as an entire complete boar. There is another way where we give a semi-divine form, the body of the Lord and the head of a Varaha. There are many kshetras. If you go to the Udayagiri caves of the 4th century in Madhya Pradesh, you will see that Varaha of the 7th century in Mahabalipuram of the Pallava dynasty, Varaha of the 6th century of the Chalukyan dynasty in cave number 1 and cave number 3 of Badami. If you go to the beautiful temple venerated by the Alvars called as Thiruvidandai, the Lord who is sandwiched between VGP Golden Beach and Maya Jal, if you have time, you can visit that Lord. Poor thing, he's waiting for you. There, he has got that form. So now Varaha, he retrieves Mother Earth. So Mother Earth can be depicted as a globe, also as a lady. See, even the Western language doesn't call Earth. It says Mother Earth. So we have this depiction of Bhumi Devi, Uddhritasi Varahena. So as the part of earth which was submerged in the waters was retrieved by Varaha, he has two tusks. One of the mystic saints in the Tamil tradition called Alvar, Nammalvar, says, Kolavarahamunnai nilankottidangkonda yendai neelakadal kadaindai ummai pettrini pokuvano. There he says, Neelavarai pirai kavvinimirundadoppa, like two crescent moons were taken and attached to a tuber was him. So he retrieved Mother Earth. While retrieving Mother Earth, he ensured that the waters on her don't shake much. Right? See, imagine you have made some dish. You are asking your son or daughter to bring it to the table. You will expect that they will bring it as is. So the Lord ensured that there was not much of movement. Even when he did that, there was little movement where the waters on that piece of Mother Earth went this way and that way. As they went this way and that way, they looked like the waves. And as those waves lashed, the sound that emanated was heard like the Mridanganadam. Why? Because Bhumi Devi is coming with Varaha. It looked like the union, and the water lashing was like Mridanganadam. Vedanta Deshika says, Purvam Varahava Pusha Purushottamena Pritena Bhogi Sadane Samudikshitaya Patalata Pralayavari Dharyastava Samudvaha Mangala Vider uchita mrudanga. Then the Lord came and he restored Mother Earth's glory. That is when Hiranyaksha from Multan in Pakistan came running to this Varaha to fight. Now Varaha killed. See, it's a normal animal clashing with the Asura. It killed with its thick and strong and sharp tusks. But Shastram tells that even if the Lord has to admonish a demon, he always uses his chakram. Where is his chakram? That is when in a work called Sudarshana Shatakam, Kuranarayana GSS states that chakram was inside the tusk. So using the chakram which had permeated the tusk, the Lord was able to annihilate Hiranyaksha. Now Bhattadri says, Samayavi Vishnur Harati Bhavadiyam Vasumatim Prabho Kashtam Kashtam Kimidamiti Tena Bhigaditaha. Look at Bhattadri's poetry. It seems this man, after he had caused some natural calamity by melting the glaciers and letting one part of the earth submerge, he went happily home to trouble her again. Next day he saw she was restored. He asked Narada, who did this? Nadan kwasau saviti samunina darshita patho. That is when Narada said, see, I'm very sad to note this, Hiranyaksha. All your efforts have failed now. I feel so bad for you. You know who did this? Samayavi Vishnur Harati. That man who's adept in cheating. Mr. Cheater. That Vishnu has done this. Nadan kwasau kwa. This kwa is very important. Who? Kwa means in Sanskritam who. Kwasau vitisa munina darshita patho. That is when upon Narada Maharshi telling where that Varaha is, Hiranyaksha got to know where Varaha is, because to him he believed Varaha was the culprit. What does this indicate? Says Bhattadri. Even for a demon, he needs an acharya to tell him where the Lord is. Samunina darshita patho bhavantam samprapta dharani dhara mudyantam udakat. So, this Varaha, as he emerged and caused damage to Hiranyaksha and killed him, Bhumi Devi said, see, you're always with Mrs. Lakshmi. She laughs to all your jokes. Whatever you say, she laughs. Does she laugh for a reason or without a reason? We don't know. What is her name? Kamala. So, Kamala keeps laughing. But what will happen to Bhumi Devi? That is when the Lord said, don't worry, what is your question? Bhumi Devi said, see, as per the instructions that you have laid in Shastram, you say when a Jiva Atma departs from the material body, Manas Chandraha, the mind should be in constant remembrance of the Lord. It's called Tatkratu Nyayam. Krishna also tells this in Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna didn't have this question, but still Krishna has to tell. If the Jivatma is departing from the body, the mind has to keep thinking of me, then it will become a part of me and will reach me. Now Bhumi Devi says, see, as such our children have lot of problems. Now you are telling only if they keep thinking of you, they will reach you. This Tatkratu Nyayam is going to be very tough. Give us one way out. That is when Varaha Bhagavan tells two shlokas. Those two shlokas are found in Varaha Puranam. Sthite manasi susvasthe sharire satiyo naraha dhatu samye sthite smarta vishwarupam chamamajam tatastham riyamanam tu kashtapashana sannibham aham smarami madbhaktam nayami paramam gatim. Those of them who keep thinking of me alone will get moksham is not required. If they once surrender to me, don't worry, I will take their names into account. Even if they don't remember me during their last minute, I will think of them. So that is why there is a statement of the Alvars in Tamil. Appodek ippode solli vaikthen. Right? So he says they don't have to, if they surrender to me, they don't have to necessarily. It doesn't mean you should not. Average அதெல்லாம் நினைக்கவே வேண்டாமா. If at all you forget, you don't have to. See, this point is very important. This is extremely important because at about 8:10 I will be dealing with that topic. When we come there, I'll tell you. Now, so Varaha restored Mother Earth's glory and gave her Upadesham. It is called Varaha Charama Shlokam, which is a part of Varaha Puranam. It is not in Bhagavatam. I've got some, this is, extra portion, reference material I've given. There was this Swayambhuva Manu that I spoke some time back. Swayambhuva Manu had 3 daughters, 2 sons. One son was called Uttanapada. This Uttanapada had 2 wives. Minimum it will start there. The first wife was Suniti. The second was Suruchi. Suniti had a son called Dhruva. Suruchi had a son called Uttama. So one day, this Uttama went and sat on the lap of his father, Uttanapada. He went and sat. And this father pampered him, motivated him. Uttanapada nripater manunandanasya jaya babhuva suruchir nitaramabhishta anya sunitiriti bharturanadrita sa tvameva nityamagati sharanam gata bhoot. So as this boy went and sat on his father's lap, the father pampered him, gave him some encouraging words. And as the father was trying to encourage the son Uttama, Uttama's mother Suruchi was beaming with joy. See, look at my son. He had achieved nothing, but still. Great son. See, look at the father-son relationship and all, she thought. There was this other son, the elder one to Uttama, called as Dhruva, who was looking at this act of his father and his brother from behind the pillar. He came running. He thought the other lap of my father is empty. Why shouldn't I also be the recipient of this love? And he went and sat. Navatsan Ripater Dhrishnyam, as the boy sat, Suruchi caught hold of him and dragged him out. Are you born of me? You are not my son. You do not receive, you are not adept enough to receive the same treatment meted to my son. What audacity you have to come and sit on this man's lap? As she reprimanded, how old was the boy? 4 years. Had she done to our children? 40. Ka. Navatsan Ripate Dhishnyam. Dhruva was very good. Bhavannarodhumarhati nagrihito mayayaswam kukshavapi nripatmajaha. Why did she scold? See, generally we wouldn't expect one lady to act this ferociously with a 4-year-old boy. There is no answer given by Shukabrahmam in Bhagavatam as to why she acted so weirdly. But Bhattadri, who gave the quintessence of Srimad Bhagavatam 450 years back in the Kshetram of Guruvayur, through his magnum opus called as Narayaniyam, says the reason. Dussantyaja khalu bhavad vimukhair asuya. People who are not devoted to you, Krishna, over a period of time, they will become prey to qualities such as jealousy as well. Bhavatim asuya. Because of asuya, she acted. If this sun rises well, then my son, what to do? Dussantyaja khalu bhavad vimukhair asuya. This boy was extremely hurt. See, it's a normal incident occurring in one family. One lady scolds the other child. Child is upset. Now he goes crying to his mother, Suniti. Mata, why am I the recipient of such hatred? And why does the other lady, Suruchi, look at me with such disgust? Anya janma kritaif punyai suruchyam suruchir nripaha Bharyeti prochyate chanya madvidha punyavarjita. My dear son, it may not be because of you. See, the mother takes the onus on her. Maybe I have accumulated so much of papam that all that is showcased on you. That is why probably because of me, my son has to undergo. Dhruva said, now I don't desire my father's love anymore. He says, I want somebody many, many times greater than my father who can offer me this love. Nanyadat, 4-year-old boy. Nanyadattamabhipsami sthanamambasva karmana ichhami tadaham sthanam yenna prapapita mama. Mother said, see, I don't know how to guide you, whom to guide you to. You check with learned people. So there was no dearth of learned people in those days. So he goes. Bhagavatam says that he spoke to Narada Maharshi. Shuka's grandfather. Who is Shuka's grandfather? Parashara Maharshi. Parashara Maharshi says in Vishnu Puranam, Dhruva spoke to Saptarishi. Now, which is true? Now, there's $1 million question. Whether he spoke to Saptarishis or Narada. See, there were 2 CCTV footages. He spoke to the Saptarishis and went to Narada. One Rishi had one footage, the other Rishi had the other footage. Unnecessary confusion we should not come into. Marichi said, Anaradhayati govindai narair sthanam nripatmaja nahi samprapyate sreshtham tasmat aradhyam achyutam. If you want to receive that incessant, unadulterated, uninterrupted, divine, matchless love, aradhayam achyutam. Go to Achyuta. Who's Achyuta? Chavati means to betray, to leave. Achyuta means the one who doesn't betray. So, there is a famous pasuram of a great mystic saint called as Bhaktangri Renu. Who is his Renu? Renu means dust. Angri means foot. Bhakta means devotee. Bhaktangri Renu, the one who smeared himself with the dust that emanates from the feet of the bhaktas. Tondar Adi Podi. He says, looking at the reclining Lord on the serpent couch of Srirangam, Pachai ma malai pol meni, Pachai ma malai pol, Pachai ma malai. If you look at the Lord, he resembles the Emerald Mountain. In other ways, when you look, I think you had good rains this time, right? So after good rains, the hills around you, when they are covered with grass and they have a certain shape, if you look from a certain distance, you've heard Bhagavatam and gone, trust me, your mind is so beautiful enough to create an image where the mountain also will look like the Lord. Pachai ma malai pol meni. No, here in Bangalore, we used to have trees. So there used to be trees called the flame of the forest. So when the petals of those leaves fall on the road, you'll be reminded of the scarlet pimpernels and dancing with the daffodils. Here they look red. So they look as if the coral reefs had assumed the shape of the petals and fallen. So when you look at the lips of the Lord, it looks as if the corals were ground and made into a very fine paste and applied on his lips. Pavalavai. The eyes of the Lord look like the petals of the lotus. Kamala Chenkan. Who is he? Alvar says, the one who doesn't betray his devotees. Achyuta. He is worshipped by the celestials. Amarare. Very great man. He won't be accessible to us. No. Ayartam Kolunde. He is worshipped by the people of Gokulam. Ichuvaita Virayan Poi. The Alvar says, after having seen that Lord, who is the epitome of accessibility, and good deeds in Srirangam, and seeing and being witness to every Utsavam where Ranganatha is decorated and adorned with the best of ornaments. The Alvar says, even if the Lord chooses to give me Vaikuntham, I may not desire. Srirangavasam is much better. இச்சுவை தவிர யான் போய் இந்திரலோகமாளும் மச்சுவை பெரினும் வேண்டேன் அரங்கமா நகரருளானே. How beautiful is he? Dikshitar says, Angaj Janakadeva Brindavana. Angaja Janakadeva. Angaja, Cupid. What does that show? Wives of the Beverly Hills. They all say he looks like the Lord of Love. Cupid, Kamadeva. Angaja Janakadeva Brinda Vanasarangendra Radaramanta Ranga Shyamalanga Vihanga Turanga Sadaya Panga Satsanga Ranga Pura Vihara Jaya Kodanda Ramavatar Raghuvira Sriranga Achyutavamarare Aradhayam Achyutam, says Marichi. Similarly, Angiras, Pulastya, Pulaha, Kratu, Vasishta, Atri, Narada, everybody say worship Narayana in different names. See, poetry is also about how you use your art of knowledge. If you look at, for example, those of you who recite the verses of Periyalvar, the Alvar has to celebrate the Lord. You know how he celebrates? The one who has got Garuda in the emblem, that Garuda who is the enemy of the serpents which has poison sacs in it dipped with the fangs. You can simply say, I worship the Lord. Payyudai naga pagai kodiyanukku pallandu kurudume. See, I don't know, there'll be many devotees of Lord Shanmukha here. Kartikeya. So there is one work, a very esoteric work called Tiruppugal. So this Tiruppugal talks about the greatness of Kartikeya. Kartikeya is a very old deity. When I say old, he is worshipped even in Ramayanam. Kumarasambhavam comes in the first part of Ramayanam. So in Tiruppugal, there is one place where Arunagirinatha, many occasions, he has to celebrate Kartikeya, who is the son of Shiva. In many occasions, he says he is the nephew to Vishnu. Now, how will he describe Kartikeya? There is one place. Rama goes on an internship with Vishwamitra. So, during that industrial training period, he comes across a lady who has been doing intense austerities for the infidelity that she was engaged in. Her name was Ahalya. Some say she was a stone, some say she was invisible, some say that she was simply doing austerities and was immovable like a stone. Whether she was a stone or like a stone is debatable. Now, as Rama walked, the dust that emanated from his feet as he walked fell on this lady, and she attained her previous form, true form, and she thanked Rama, and Rama brought Ahalya and her estranged husband Gautama together. This is Ramayanam. Now Arunagirinatha tells, why did Rama have to give emancipation to Ahalya? Why was Ahalya a stone? How could she be a stone, and why did he give emancipation? Just to prove the greatness of his feet. We say often, Potpadam. His feet are like golden feet. She is a stone. See, if nobody should have such tough times, suppose there is a tough time and I have to go pawn this jewelry in a pawnbroker's shop. How will he check whether this is good gold or not? He will rub that against a stone. What is the value of this gold chain? I don't know, maybe in your amount $2,000. What is the value of that stone? Not even $1. But what will tell the value that this is gold or not? That $1 stone. So how will you know the greatness of Rama's feet? Only when it falls on that Ahalya, who's a stone, tells Arunagiri Natha. Now, this Rama, whose feet was so pure, unadulterated, and great enough, was proven by a stone. That Rama who gave emancipation to a stone, thereby the stone reproving the greatness of Rama's feet, that Rama's nephew, Kartikeya, is how he celebrates. So this is poetry. Now, this is how they have described. Now, Narada tells you go worship Vishnu. Now, this boy first of all wanted to understand how will Vishnu be? Suppose if I pray to him and he appears before me, I should know that this is Vishnu. Narada said, don't worry, there are a few descriptions to him. I will read out. You will find all this there. Shrivatsankam ghanashyamam purusham vanamalinam. When he appears in front of you, you will see a resplendent gem on his dark body. It will be called Kaustubham. Next to that, there will be one mole, dark mole. He will be dark. The mole is also darker. Shrivatsankam ghanashyamam purusham vanamalinam shankha chakra gada padmair abhivyakta chaturbhujam kiritanam kundalinam keyuravanayanvitam kaustubha bharanagrivam pita kausheya vasasam Kanchi kalapa paryastam lasat kanchananuppuram darshaniyatamam shantam manonayana vardhanam. You will then feel, my boy, having a glimpse of him, you will feel that this is the pinnacle of bhakti. Immediately this boy went. He had kapitha and badara juice for 3 nights, once in 3 nights, detoxification for 1 month. Then he had dry grass and leaves. Because if you're doing vratam, you will have to have lesser food. But you should not do vratam just like that. I worship this deity. Monday I'm having vratam. Tuesday for this deity. Thursday for Vijayakant. Friday for Rajinikanth. No. So, Shastram tells you have to fast on Ekadashi only. Ekadashi is the only agreed fasting. Sir, intermittent fasting, that I don't know. But water, then you have to live on water. Dry leaves is allowed. When Parvati Devi wanted to worship Shiva in Kumara Sambhavam, she was very mad after Shiva. Lord Shiva doesn't sport any of these gold jewelry what Vishnu generally had. He's a very, very simple man, but very handsome. So he has jata, and in that there will be one crescent moon, there will be one snake. Parvati said, I like this hero. So she went and worshipped Shiva. Her austerities are unmatched till date. Kalidasa tells, even while doing vratam, she was allowed to have dry leaves. But she refused. I don't want even that. I can sustain. Since she did not have dry leaves, there is a name for Devi. She is called Aparna. Aparna means who does not have dry leaves. So Parvati worshipped Shiva. But this boy had dry leaves. Then he left dry leaves. He took water. He breathed air. All this is fine. Now his austerities were so intense that the Devas were worried. Then the Lord appeared on a Garuda Vahanam. So as the Lord appeared, the boy could sense, imagine you are in the intense heat. I don't know, when July you will get intense heat. No power in the house. All that won't happen just like that, I'm telling you. No power. Suddenly, while you're closing your eyes, when will I get good air? Somebody puts on the AC. You'll feel so cooled. Similarly was this boy's state. Because the Lord appeared on Garuda Vahanam and he felt there was a different change to the atmosphere, to the surroundings around him, the vicinity. He opened his eyes. Tavattapobala niruchavasite digante devarthitastava mrudat karunadrachetaha. He opened his eyes and saw one personification of unmatched beauty. See, whenever our Shastras have to describe the Lord, they will go on and on with his beauty. Unmila Dantapankti Spuratarunatara Bimbadarantaha. Vedanta Deshika says in certain place, Kamaramas Chirakadalika Stamba Sambhavaniyam Kshauma Slishtam Kimapi Vasata Bhuminilo Padanam. His thighs will be like the banana stems where the Cupid lord called Manmatha in the form of an elephant also cannot go. All these descriptions, they will get so excited, all our acharyas, if they have to describe the Lord. They will talk about his navel. Nadi kena spuritarajasa vedaso nirmimana ramyavarta dyuti sahacharim ranganathasya nabihi. Look at that navel, it is so beautiful. Look at his nose. It will be like the sesame flower. Look at his kapolam, cheeks. They will look like the emerald mirrors to the beautiful gem-studded makara kundalam on either side. Oh, the description is beautiful. Now this boy sees the Lord. He had planned a list of things to ask to the Lord. Why my father did this? Why am I the only one to undergo all of this while my brothers? He wanted all these questions. But the moment he saw the Lord, he had tears rolling down his cheeks. Why? Because there is so much of grief in him after having listened to the abusive words of his stepmother. How were those words? Saint Tyagaraja says, take an iron trident, put it into blazing fire until it turns red, and then put it into the ears. It will be so painful. Her words were that painful. Sa patni matayau suruchi che karna shulamaina matanu vedanu surukala talaka Shri Harini dhyaninchi. Sa patni matayau suruchi che karna shulamaina matanu. After seeing the Lord, Valachi he just melted after having seen the Lord. Then the Lord thought, if he keeps crying, when will he speak? He took the conch and then took his palm closer to the boy's cheeks and placed it Kapola Deshe. Then the boy started singing praises of the Lord. Sahasra Shirusha Purushaha Sahasraksha Sahasrapad Sarvavyapi Bhuvasparshat Atyatishthad Dashangulam. So he praised the Lord, and the Lord said, what do you want? And he hugged that boy, gave him all that love that a father would give. And the boy said, when you have given me that love, why will I need that Mr. Uttanapada? Waste father. Now, then the Lord said, I will give you a few boons, which is very natural in all our Puranas. There was one very peculiar boon. He said, from now onwards, since you have kept thinking of me continuously, incessantly, uninterruptedly, that is our problem. We have a lot of interruptions. Right? 22 to 25 minutes it will take to recite one avarti of Sahasranamam. But is our mind completely in that Tatte Pratyagradhara? Are we on that Lord? Vishwam Vishnu Vashatkaro Bhuta Bhavya Bhavat Prabhu Bhutagrit Bhutabrit Pavo Bhuta Atma. Time at the Bhuta Bhavanaha Bhuta Atma Paramatma Cha. Tell Alexa to keep quiet. Bhuta Atma Paramagadi Abhyaya Purusha Sakshi Kshetrajno. Is our concentration on the Lord? No, because it comes with a lot of interruptions. So this consistent, uninterrupted memory of the Lord is called, the Lord said, from today onwards, memory will be called by your name. That is why Smriti means remembrance. Continuous remembrance is called Dhruva Smriti in Sanskrit. So he gave, this is the varam he gave. Now, I have to deal with another important avataram. Maharishihi have come to your kshetram. Right? This kshetram, incidentally, your state, was once called by the great sage of Kanchi as Kapilaranyam. California was called Kapilaranyam, is what Kanchi Paramacharya used to state. So in Kapilaranyam I have come. In Kapilaranyam, Kapila must be praised. Maharishihi Kapilacharyaha Kritagnaha Medhini Patihi comes in Sahasranama. Now, this Kapilacharya's avataram begins with a person called Kardama Prajapati. Kardama was a great rishi. Now he worshipped the Lord, and the Lord appeared in Garuda Vahana. So, as per our Agama, Garuda as a bird. Today we call it eagle. We don't know exactly. Garuda is eagle, something like eagle. Now, this Garuda, as per our Agama, is a personification of Vedic sound. Remember this. So, Netram Gayatramuchehe says Vedanta Deshika. The eyes are like Gayatri mantra. His wings are like Samaveda. This is why when Vedic chants are done and a temple's Samprokshanam or Kumbhabhishekam is performed, when the waters, the Vedic waters are poured on the Kalashas, it is a norm in Bharatadesham, I don't know about the US, to see the Garuda Pakshi going around that place because it is believed it can sense the Vedic sound. So, here, when Kardama Prajapati was propitiating the Lord, Nirikshitastasya yatha vasesha siddheshwara bhishtuta siddha margaha akarnayan patra rathendra pakshair ucharitam stomam udirna sama. The Lord who had to come on Garuda did not even inform Kardama, I am Vishnu, I have come here. Open your eyes, nothing. Udirna sama, the flapping of the Garuda wings was so clear that Kardama could hear the sound of Samavedam. Udirna sama. If Samavedam sound has come in front of me, then the wings of Garuda must have been flapped. If Garuda has come, the Lord must have come. He opened his eyes. So, then the Lord said, Kardama, I am very happy with your devotion. Marry soon. The Lord, Kardama, sir, this was not the intent of my penance. I wanted to just see you. Now, why this instruction, marry? Whom should I marry? Don't worry, in a few minutes from now, Mr. Swayambhuva Manu will come. And Swayambhuva Manu's son, a daughter, Devahuti, is whom you have to marry. And Devahuti and Kardama Prajapati married. Now they had many daughters, many daughters. Then after getting those daughters married, he went into penance again. That is when this lady goes and tells, I think we need to have one son. Because if she had asked son before, there would have been a big protest from the Women's Association. It's anti-woman. We don't like it. Right? Then there would have been articles in all your news dailies. Kardama is anti. So he had daughters. Later, after Beti Bachao, Beti Padao, he said, I want beta. Now, that is when the Rishi said, see, our age is around, the Sashtyabda Purti is over. But then she said, no, I want a great son. That is when they prayed to the Lord, and then eventually they were blessed with a son. He was called Kapil. Who is Kapil? He played cricket. Maharishihi Kapilacharyaha Kritagnaha Medhini Patihi Sankhyasya Vakta Kapilaha Paramarishihi Sa Uchyate, says one commentator. Now, this lady, she goes and tells her husband, yes, we have now had a son, I'm very happy. The husband says, now I'm going to go on Vanaprastham. Enough of this life, I will go into the forest. I have got a few doubts, she said. Get it cleared from your son. Our son has just finished kindergarten. No, he has knowledge of a great rishi. You go and ask. That is when she said, my dear son, I have a few doubts. See, she was a bit doubtful. The boy had just completed his, what do you call kindergarten here? There's some other name? No, prep. Kindergarten. Okay. So after kindergarten, the boy had completed. So she went and asked, I want to know what is the essence of life. This boy said, Matiriha gunasakta bandhakriteshva sakta tvamadyakrita parundhe bhakti yogastu saktim. He advised her on bhakti yoga. See, this is the Lord. Kapilacharya is the Amsha of the Lord. Maharshihi Kapilacharyaha Kritagnaha Medhinipatihi. He is now doing rehearsal for a bigger avataram. In Krishna avataram, he has to give 700 verses, 1.5 hours upanyasam. So for that, he is practicing now. What is Bhakti Yoga? See, you all know in Mahabharatam, Arjuna's intent was to simply ask whether to fight or not. But Krishna took that opportunity, used that opportunity, and gave that 1.5 hours lecture of 700 verses. Arjuna was confused. I didn't ask all this. Why is this man telling? But Krishna had this habit of telling relevant and irrelevant things also, so that it is useful to us. So, how will you describe Bhagavad Gita in one shloka? It is so tough. So 700 verses. We have heard Swami Chinmayananda, Prabhupada, they all give long lectures, but one of the acharyas called Yamuna Acharya in Gitartha Sangraha, in one verse he summarizes. Swadharma Jnana Vairagya Sadhya Bhakti Eka Gocharaha Narayanaha Param Brahma Gita Shastre Samiritaha. One verse over Bhagavad Gita. So, Arjuna was told by Krishna, you have to practice karma, jnana, bhakti yogams. So, karma yogam and jnana yogam comes in the first 6 chapters. Bhakti yogam comes in the next 6 chapters, chapter 7 to chapter 12. Sir, you don't know the basic itself. There are 18 chapters. Chapter 13 to 18, if karma jnana is in the first 6, bhakti yogam is in the next 6. What will happen to the last 6? You have to understand Bhagavad Gita in a very nice manner. That is why you have to read Purvacharya Surakshitam, Bhagavad Ramanuja in his matchless commentary to Bhagavad Gita. It is called Gita Bhashyam, to which there is another commentary by the prolific Acharya called Vedanta Deshika. His commentary is called Tatparya Chandrika. So 3 works of Bhagavad Gita that you have to read in unison. One is Yamuna Acharya's Gitartha Sangraha, Ramanuja Acharya's Gita Bhashya, and Vedanta Deshika's Tatparya Chandrika. If you read all the 3, you will know. See, when Arjuna was told Karma Yogam and Jnana Yogam in the first 6 chapters, first, because you need Karma and Jnana, then you have to go to Bhakti. Mattaf parataram nanyat kinchidasti dhananjaya mai sarvamidam proktam sutre manigana iva. He goes to the 7th chapter, explains till the 12th. Shows a Vishwarupam and says Vasudeva sarvamiti samahatma sudurlabha. And after that, Krishna senses from the facial expressions of Arjuna that he has doubts in the first 12 chapters. See, that is the duty of a speaker. You should always keep looking at the face of your audience and check, okay, whether they are interested, not, bored, nalek varuvala. Which one to speak now? If, some of them, they become like this, then you have to take up a chapter which is slightly interesting and then go to the one which has Vedanta, which means boring. Jivatma, Paramatma, come every repeater. Jivatma, Paramatma. Then you have to get back. So all this, you should not come with a prepared speech. Now I would like to go. We are not news readers. Right? There in Carnatic music, there is a concept called lekdem, lecture demonstration. The next raga that we are going to see is Kamboji. In Kamboji, you've got this Shadjam. They won't be bothered about what the audience are telling. They will come with a prepared speech. In O Rangashai, Tyagaraja Swami takes, you have to look at your audience. So this is the duty of an Upanyasaka. You should not let anybody yawn. If they yawn, you have to keep looking at them. Then they will feel a bit embarrassed. See, sleep can come after the lecture, not during. Now, Krishna sensed from Arjuna's body language that he had certain doubts. So he started speaking from the 13th chapter to 18th chapter to clear those doubts. It was revision of the first 12 chapters. That is Bhagavad Gita. Swadharma Jnana Vairagya Sadhya Bhakti Eka Gocharaha. That is when Kapilacharya tells his mother, Matiriha Gunasakta Bandha Kritveshvasakta त्वमृत कृतपरुन्धे भक्तियोगस्तु शक्तिं महदगुणमलभ्य भक्तिवेत्र भक्तिरेवात्र साध्य कपिलतनुरिति त्वं देवहूत्यै न्यगादिः. He gives those explanations. That is when he tells how a child is born. Very interesting. See, I don't know whether the medical practitioners, those of them who are embryologists, who read about the development of a fetus within the mother's womb, the amnion, chorion, placenta, the fluid there, would completely agree with this description. But I am here to only explain what is there in the Grantham. I leave it to the discretion of the quintessential knowledge of those listeners who are adept in such fields to find a correlation or at least some kind of a partial relationship with this description. So, here all this description comes. Ahaha bahula himsa sanchitarthai kutumbam. So Kapilacharya tells his mother, because his mother has asked, see, why don't we get interest in Bhakti Yogam at the start itself? See, after so many years, after Sashthyabda Purti, now I'm coming to you, my dear son, to ask all these details. Why didn't I get it at the start itself? See, I should have got this interest in Vedanta at a very young age. I would have spent my life usefully after a very long time. Now I've come here and now I've asked, why? That is when he says, see how a child is born. That is when he invokes how the sperm goes and fertilizes the ovum. It begins. All the description comes in Srimad Bhagavatam. Then it goes in 5 nights, it becomes a bubble. In 10 days, he says it goes to the size of a plum, and then the flesh ball, and the head is formed at the end of 1 month. Hands, feet, and other limbs are formed towards the end of 2 months. Then the nails, the bones, the eyes, the ears start developing towards the end of 3 months. And then at the end of 4 months, the child develops good flow of blood within itself. And then towards the end of 5 months, there is hunger and thirst evidently seen within the child as a fetus. And towards the 6th month, it starts slowly changing its position and then goes into a position where it sees Parabrahmam is the point. So each of the child as a fetus is able to see Parabrahmam within the womb. That is when the posture is also similar. That mudra is as if the child is prostrating and offering obeisances to that Paramatma. Now, Jayamanam hi purusham yampashyen madhusudanaha satvikaha satuvigneyaha savai mokshartha chintakaha is a Purana Vakyam. Jayamanam hi purusham. That child as a fetus, in the state of a fetus, who is able to perceive Paramatma while as a fetus, Jayamanam Purusham, continuously, and is able to listen. Now, I don't know, there will be some gynecologists, obstetricians here. I've heard some of my friends who are into this field say that from the 7th, 8th month, the child can actually perceive the external sound as well. So even doctors say, listen to nice things, feel good things. That is why during the 8th month, a certain samskaram is performed called as Pumsavanam, which is also known by another name called Seemantam. And the Veena is played. Of all the instruments, Veena is played during that Seemantam. Actually, there used to be a Seemantam for every pregnancy. But later, if the production is high, associated costs will also become high. So they said only for the first pregnancy you do. That is called cost cutting. So the Veena used to be played because it is believed in the Shastram. If you are all good at research, please do and tell. I will include that also. Of the various musical instruments, Veena Nadam is very well understood by a fetus. So they will play Veena. And there is one mantra that you have to play in the Veena, but that mantra will just go on Udattam, Swaritam, Dirgha Swaritam. So they have now used a ragam called Shri. Shri is generally sung for Seemantam. So, why is it called Seemantam? Because in those days, to see if the woman is married or not, no man or woman can keep carrying one big board. I am married, I am available. All this they cannot do, right? So for the man, the 3 strands of thread, if it has turned 6, it means he is married. And his way of draping the dhoti, if it has changed from a cylindrical shape to this kacham where it goes down, it means he is married. But we have to be very, very careful here. Just because, remember this, all married men traditionally had to sport this form of dhoti. It's called kacham. At 5 places there are not. So it's called pancha kacham. So this is the dress for married men. All married men have to sport pancha kacham. Remember this statement. But not all people who sport pancha kacham were essentially married. Sir, confusing, sir. All married men should sport panchakacham. Easy. I'll just take 2 minutes. Guru Ingerkar. I can go, no? 2 hours it is. I'm going to cross. So, because in academy when we do performances, the screen will come down after 2 hours. So, see, I have told this in many of my lectures. People who have listened will know. Bhishmacharya wore kacham. He was a grihastha. Remember, he practiced brahmacharyam, but he was a grihastha. What is our opinion? Mukesh Khanna. So Bhishma was a person who was grihastha. Why? I'll just tell this, please be attentive. Else you will lose track. Again, you will ask doubts. I will not clear those doubts. You have to be attentive. After having undergone traditionally the Upanayanam ceremony, thread ceremony, at the age of 7, generally that was a recommended age. But for certain rare occasions, if the child has the ability to speak and recite, at the age of 5 also the child can undergo Upanayanam. So if clarity in speech is there, 5 years is also fine. Generally 7. Sir, if clarity doesn't come even at the age of 20, we can't help. Now, after the 7th year Upanayanam, the child goes and learns Vedas. I'm talking about a very, very traditional Vedic education. The child would go learn Vedas. They have to do Swashakha. If you belong to Yajurvedam, you have to learn Yajurvedam. You cannot say, I would like to shift to Samam. Like the sorting hat, it will not put you to Gryffindor. You have to fall into that Vedam and you'll have to do Adhyanam of that particular Vedam. Towards the end of that Salakshana Vedadhyanam, there is a graduation ceremony. How is a graduation? You have to throw the hat in the top and one candid shot will come. No, there was one Vedic graduation ceremony. It was called Samavartanam. Vedic graduation is called Samavartanam. So on the day of Samavartanam, the boy who traditionally used to be draped in a dhoti in a cylindrical fashion. See, a brahmachari's cylindrical veshti, that dhoti should be slightly up. It should be like the British coachman. Brahmachari is not allowed to apply sandal paste. He is not allowed to chew betel leaves. But Krishna had Chandanam. See, when I deal with Krishna Avataram, when he enters Mathura, one Kubja gives Chandanam paste to Krishna. Then how did he sport, sir? Because he was already married. He was married to his uncle's daughter called as Neela. It comes in Harivamsham. In the Tamil culture, she's called Pinnai. She was a good Pinnai. So she's called Nal Pinnai, Nappinnai. So he was already married. That is why he sported Chandanam. Let's come back here. This Samavartanam ritual happens. Samavartanam, after that Vedic graduation, the boy is given dhoti and he has to wear panchakacham. That Samavartanam ritual is over. After Samavartanam, he ceases to be a brahmachari. He has to go to Facebook and change his status. He is no more a brahmachari. Samavartanam ritual is over. But he is still not married. So between the Samavartanam and marriage, it's a very short period. He is called Snataka. So the Snataka position is called Anashrami. Sir, too technical you are going, sir. Ashramam is a stage. There are 4 stages: Brahmacharyam, Grihastham, Vanaprastham, Sannyasam. So from Brahmachari, that Samavartanam ritual has happened. Is he a Brahmachari anymore? No. Is he married? No. So between this short period, in organic chemistry, you have this SN1, SN2 mechanism. It's called transition state, where the carbon has to leave one hydrogen and then go take up one halogen. It's called transition state. So this is one transition state. In the transition state, that person is neither a brahmachari nor a grihastha. He is a snataka. Now, snataka has 2 options. One option, so one option is to become a grihastha, marry and become a grihastha, or take up sannyasam. You have to take up sannyasam. But the disadvantage of taking up sannyasam is it is not a reversible process. See, you cannot say 1 week I will remain a sannyasi. I will check if everything is fine. Then I'll come back to grihastha. You cannot do that. It is one-way reaction. And a sannyasi cannot do activities associated with fire. A sannyasi can't cook for himself. A sannyasi cannot perform havan. Nothing related to the fire sannyasi can do. Only somebody has to cook and feed the sannyasi. Somebody else has to do the yajnam. So a sannyasi is not allowed to do fire activities. Even a brahmachari is not allowed to do fire activities except samitadhanam. Even a brahmachari can't cook. So, applying sandal paste, chewing betel leaves, cooking, doing havan, all this were the amenities given to a grihastha. Only when you become a grihastha, you can do all of this. You can cook and do all of this. Now, I told you, from snataka, no ashramam, anashrami dinamekam na tishteta is a shastra vakyam. You should not be an anashrami. So you've got 2 options, either to become a grihastha or a sannyasi. What is that? Robert Frost. 2 roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both. And be one traveler long I stood and looked down one as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth, he says, right? 2 roads. You have to choose one. So that man, generally 99% of the times, that snataka will choose grihasthashrama. So even before the marriage has taken place, the kacham has come. The 3 threads have become 6. So if you see a person who has undergone Samavartanam ritual just a day back and he is with kacham, you cannot conclude he is married. He is to be married. That is why you should say all married men wear kacham, but all people who wear kacham essentially need not be grihastha. You are getting my point? Now, let's go to Mahabharatam and then I'll come here. And then I have to go to Ramayanam and come. I'll finish it off fast, don't worry. In Sri Mahabharatam, Shantanu had a son who was Gangeya, who was Devavrata. Devavrata had studied, graduated, everything, and then Samavartanam ritual was over. So he had to get married in just a few days. That is when he senses from the driver of his family that his father is interested in some woman. He goes to that fisherman folk community and finds out that his father is love head over heels over that lady called Satyavati, Matsya Gandhi. So that man says, see, now you're going to get married very soon. Then you will rule, your son will rule, then my daughter gets married, then they will have children. Those children will never get to rule. That is why you should please go back today and check Mahabharatam. The original verses, you will get it in Google. This Devavrata says, Adyame, from today I shall practice brahmacharya. See, if he was originally a brahmachari, you wouldn't use the word from today. You will say, like yesterday, like before, I will continue being a brahmachari. He says, from today I shall practice brahmacharyam, which essentially means, till then, he was a snataka who was ready for marriage. That lady whom he was engaged to also considered this Devavrata as her husband. She had changed profile pic, everything she had done. She had informed her friends. Menaka had printed the cards. Yes, Devavrat, Shantanu's son, right? Yes, Devavrat marries that lady. We don't know that lady. XX. That lady. Everything was announced. Now, Bhishma had become technically very close to being a grihastha. But you cannot stay in the state of a snataka for a very long time. You have to choose grihastha. So he married. And then he continued as a grihastha without having relationship with that lady. That lady stayed elsewhere thinking of him. Vaidehi Kathirindal. She kept thinking of him. And he stayed away from her. So he was married. How do we know that? I told you, married people alone can use activities related to the fire. One of the primary activities for a married man was to perform fire activities thrice a day. It was called Treta Agni. Those people who do those 3 fire activities together are called Agnihotri. Who is Agnihotri? Agnihotri means he has to perform Agnihotram. Now don't ask if Vivek is doing Agnihotram. I don't know. But traditionally Agnihotram they have to perform. So with that fire should never get extinguished. Wherever they go, they have to carry that fire. 3 times a day, wherever they go, they have to carry that fire. And that fire will be used to cremate the person who performed that Agnihotram. If I die, my Agnihotra fire should be used to burn me. You cannot take one matchstick and put. So Bhishmacharya, when he promises, he states, from today I shall remain like a brahmachari, which means there is some problem before. When he passes away after, when he chooses to die, that is when Krishna tells Yudhishthira he has no children of his own. You perform the final rites of Bhishma from the Agni of his Agnihotram. There is a verse in Mahabharata. So Ramanuja concludes in Sri Bhashyam, and Kumarila Bhatta also concludes, Bhishma Raikva Samvartadhinam Anashraminam Brahmavidya Nishtatvam is one verse from Sri Bhashyam of Ramanuja. Antara chapitu tadrishtehe is the Brahma Sutra. Now I finished Mahabharatam, let me come back quickly to Ramayana. So in Ramayanam, Rama was married. While in the forest, he was performing Agnihotram thrice a day. And he has to carry, wherever you go, you have to carry that fire. You have to just carry that fire, go to that new place and put that fire into that fuel. Now, he had, instead of 3 threads, he had 6. First identity for a married man. Kacham he had. And he had fire. Now remember one more rule. If the person loses the wife, she is dead, that person is not entitled to perform any of the fire related activities. Dhava in Sanskritam means consort. Better half is called Dhava. That is why Ma in Sanskritam means Mahalakshmi. The husband to Ma is Ma Dhava. Dhava means husband. The one without the Dhava is Vidhava. The one who doesn't have the wife is dead, then that widower is called Vidura. Now remember, it is not Vidura. Small the Vidura means wise. There was this wise man, Dhritarashtra's brother. That is Vidura. The one without the wife, the widower is Vidura. That when you pronounce the person sitting before you, their back should become better. That is Vidura. So in Brahma Sutram, you've got a particular portion called Vidhuradikaranam, Antara chapitu tadrishtehe is that portion. I'm not going deep into Brahma Sutras. Now, remember, Rama has got 6 threads, Panchakacham, which proves he is married. But he could still be a widower, because a widower doesn't have to relinquish those extra 3 threads and Kacham. How do we know that he's still married and his wife is living? Because he's carrying the stick with Agni. Agnihotra Agni. Else he wouldn't be carrying. So when he meets Hanuman for the first time in Kishkinda Kandam, Hanuman doesn't ask Rama as to whether you're married, where is your wife, where did she go, nothing. Hanuman, looking at Rama's external features and the fire, concludes, since he has got 6 threads and the Kacham, he's married. Since he's carrying the fire, his wife is living. Since his face is sad, it means his wife is not with him. If she is not with him, he's kidnapped. We should not ask any more questions to him. So there is so much in Kishkin. That is why we call Navavyakarana Pandita Hanuman. A good speaker, an adept logician will never ask irrelevant questions. He will know the state of the person and conclude. That is the greatness of Hanuman. So Hanuman was not married, he has never seen men, but he has studied so well, he brings relevance to what he has studied. Now, this particular now in the here for the lady body, this lady who, for the men I spoke, right? For the women, till they were married, I'm talking about those days, their hair should be drawn this way. So you comb this way. When she's married and she's pregnant for the first time, and in the 7th or the 8th month for the first time, a stick is used to part her hair. This parting process, so you will be able to see the scalp. That parting process in Sanskritam is called Seemantam. In Tamil, da is the same, so that's why Seemandam. Mandam, it's Seemantam. Ta. Now, when Rama had to draw a thin strip of land connecting Bharatadesham and Lanka to transport all these monkeys. See, monkeys, they didn't know swimming. If they fall into waters, they'll get sinus problem. So they had to be taken. So a thin line was drawn between Bharatadesham. So how did it look? As a poet, Vedanta Deshika says, if the waters of the ocean is one strand, this line drawing looked as if Rama had done Seemantam to the Samudram. So that is why in Raghuvira Gadyam he says, Setu Patha Seema Seemantita Samudra. He does Seemantam to the ocean. Now, that is when in the 7th or the 8th month, Kapila tells his mother Devahuti that the child sees the Lord in front of him. Alvar says, Karuvarangathul Kidandhen Kaitoluden Kanden Thiruvarangan Meyantishai. So the child is very, see, we were all once in our mother's womb extremely Brahmajnanis, we were all. Now we may doubt. Each of us were Brahmajnanis inside our mother's womb. Then around the 9th month, whether during or in and around the period the gynecologist has given the time for delivery, the water will break. Now the child has to come. Now these days the father is also called because he can chop that umbilical cord. Shastram tells the father only has to cut that umbilical cord, but he has to recite one mantra. This father doesn't do that. He'll only cut and pose for a selfie. Now after cutting that umbilical cord, the child comes out. Now when the child comes, generally there will be practitioners here, the head comes out first because the child has to breathe. It comes out. Now mothers will know, till about a year and a half, this portion of the child will be very soft. You will doubt whether there is skull there. It will be that soft. Over a period of time it gets hardened. The cranial portion gets hardened. So this portion is called Brahmarandram. Generally for great sannyasis, the Atma will exit from here. Because now there is one inverted lotus here, and that inverted lotus will have 101 nadis coming out of it. The 101th nadi is called Sushumna. So there is one Kundalini. I heard many devotees here are also Sri Vidya Upasakas. Right? So that is why when Sri Vidya believes, Sri Vaishnava Sampradayam has slightly different notion of it, Sushumna Nadi. Sri Vidya believes that while you are living, you will have to position your voice strain very well. There are 4 levels at which the voice comes. Para, Pashyanti, Madhyama, Vaikhari. You've heard of it? In Lalita Sahasranamam, Para Pashyanti Kshiti Rupa, Pashyanti Paradevata, Madhyama, Vaikhari Rupa, Bhaktamana Sahamsika. Now these 4 are associated with Pranavam. That is why Dikshitar tells Pura Kumbha Sambhava Munivara Prapujitam Trikona Madhyagatam Murari Pramukha Dupasitam Mooladhara Kshetra Sthitam Paradi Chatvari Vagatmaka Pranava. It's not Para Chatvari Vagatmakam. Paradi Chatvari Vagatmaka Pranava. Paradi Chatvari Para Pashyanti Vaikari Madhyama. Paradi Chatvari Vagatmaka. This is what Sri Vidya believes. Now let's come back to Bhagavatam. Sri Vaishnava Sampradayam states the Jivatma has to exit. So it is called Brahmarandram. Over a period of time, it gets hardened. When the child is born, Shastram says, in the composition of this air, there is one component called Shatam. That Shatam's attribute is when it touches the cranial portion, eventually it will permeate and shall make the child lose memory. So while inside the womb we are seeing Parabrahmam, we are all Brahmagyanis. The moment the child comes out, that Shatam will go and attack this portion and the child will be made to forget what all knowledge it had. Now, this forgetfulness, the child is not able to take. See, even now, let's take our position. We want to say something to the other person, something very important. That person has come. We were thinking all through day long. We have to tell this to that person. That person has come. The person has come. We are just getting close and we are forgetting. Oh, I wanted to tell you it has come till here. How will the other person know? It has to come out. Right? So we feel like cursing ourselves. Because we are able to speak, we curse ourselves. The child is not able to speak. So it starts crying. I've forgotten. We are all very happy. குழந்தை அழுதுடுத்து, நம்மளோட சேர்ந்துடுத்து, எல்லாம் மறதிக்கே வந்துட்டு. One child that was an exception to this general rule of oblivion was a child. Through his anger he kicked that Shatam. Shatakopa. Shatakopa Nammarva. When he was born with knowledge. He didn't have to go in search of knowledge. No quest. It came naturally to him. So this boy, Kapilacharya, Maharshihi Kapilacharya tells all this to the mother. See, in your life, mother, that Shatam has played a big role. That is why at the age of 60, now you are asking, why did I do this? Now, see, initially she doubted whether her little boy will be able to give her this knowledge when her husband, Kardama Prajapati, said, after Kapilopadesham, she says, I don't wish to stay here anymore. I need to go to Vaikuntham. And Kapila blessed her with that Vaikuntha Prapti. Then Kapila also said, see, at this pace, if Dushyanth goes, he has to complete Dhruvacharitram is over. Pruthucharitram, Jadabharata Charitram, Nrisimhavataram, Tripura Samharam. Tomorrow, how will he do? So tomorrow, I think we began today at 6:21. So maybe tomorrow by 6:10, if we begin, I'll get those 10 extra minutes. I don't have to disturb your late night Puliyodara session. So yesterday was Pongal, right? Pongal? So yesterday Pongal. Pongal is a very dangerous dish. Pongal? See, Pongal is very unique. It comes especially every day in our house during Margazhi month. Oh, Pongal overdose. But why do they make it in Margazhi? Because Cheru says Skanda Puranam and Padma Puranam. During Margazhi month, you have to mix dal and rice together and cook Pongal. Pongal can become interesting if something is good to go together with it. Right? Just Pongal will not, okay. But now, Annam has so much of value in it. Annadanam has a greater value. Now for Tennangur Divyadesham, Abhimanasthalam, there is Nitya Annadanam happening. So Jnanananda Seva Samajam, out of sheer devotion, they have made this event so free. Did Anirudh Ravichandar charge last week? அப்புறம் இன்னொருத்தர் வந்திருக்காரு அவர் என்ன அப்படி பிடிப்பார் நிஷாதத்தை பிடிப்பார் அஞ்சனி யார் அவர் அலெக்ஸ் பாபு அலெக்ஸ் பாபு did he charge? பாருங்க இவ பாருங்க ஃப்ரீயா வச்சிருக்கா. ஸோ ப்ளீஸ் கிவ் யுவர் டொனேஷன்ஸ் டு தென்னாங்கூர் Annadanam. Volunteers are here. Please reach out to the Bhagavatottamas, Astikas, how you can do. And I hope all of you will partake in this huge Dhanam process. Tomorrow is a very important day. We will be covering Nrisimha Avataram. And the day after tomorrow is an important day, Krishna Avataram. After that is also an important day. Every day is an important day. So all of you come in large numbers. Those of you who know people who are not initiated into discourses, you pull them also. You tell them, see, you listen for half an hour and see, if you don't like the speaker, you can leave the hall. Let them come in the last half an hour, they'll get prasadam also. Okay, but bring more people. The reason for doing it in English is to reach out to the large diaspora. So hope to see you all tomorrow. Kavitarkika Simhaya Kalyana Gunashaline Srimate Venkateshaya Vedanta Gurave Namaha Swasti Prajabhya Paripalayantam Nyayena Margena Mahim Mahisha Gobrahmanebhya Shubhamastu Nityam Loka Samasta Sukhyono Bhavantu Kalyana Rupaya Kalau Jananam Kalyana Dhatre Karuna Sudhapte Kambadi Divya Yudha Satkaraya वातालयाधीश नमो नमस्ते नारायण 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 नारायण